Hello everybody, I'm Sandie La Nae, and thank you for and welcome to Psychic Creations. As you know, I am a psychic who uses stones as my tool to give intuitive readings. Now, stones have played a very important part in jewelry down through the ages, as they are used as talisman pendants and to show authority, royalty, and station in lots of different necklaces and crowns. Now, rings have stood the time with their shapes meaning, and then also with the stones set in them as tokens of love and commitment. And with today's show, Psychic Creations, we are going to be talking about the history of rings. Now, the use of rings as tokens, I've got my cheat sheets here because I can't memorize anything. The use of rings as tokens is as ancient as a custom of wearing rings. Now, this includes lip rings, neck rings, nose rings, bracelets and anklets, and earrings. All of these were known to be in use in prehistoric times. But the custom of wearing finger rings was not common in the primitive societies. And one reason for that is because, well, rings could get in the way, they could interfere with mundane tasks. And I'm sure that if you wear a lot of rings like I do, they can easily get caught on, well, lots of things. Now, many feel that the ring was an Egyptian innovation for the wealthy members, but only rings in the form of signets were used to seal documents, thus ensuring their authenticity. But possession of a signet ring meant authority and power. And then, as a result, finger rings quickly rose to the status of jewelry. Among the ancient Greeks, the origin of finger rings is connected with the idea of a pledge and keeping something on your mind. For example, after Zeus released Prometheus from the never-ending torture of the mountains of Caucasus, the rebellious god had to wear a finger ring forged from the links of the iron chain and adorned with a piece of the rock to which he had been chained to the mountains for centuries. Now, this sounds like an early promise ring with the simple message, I shall respect the will of Zeus. Well, that'll make sure it stays on his mind forever and ever. Okay, let's first talk about the promise rings. Our lives are full of promises. You're going to go pick someone up at the airport. You're going to help a child with a school project, or I'm going to volunteer to pick up the groceries after work today. But there are special kinds of promises that are meant to last a long time. And these promises are very beneficial to both parties. And so, with this specialness, eons ago, mankind developed a practice of offering tokens that serve as reminders of such important promises. It seems fitting that promise rings were chosen as the ultimate token of human commitment. One variation of a promise ring was the betrothal ring, which was well known in ancient Rome. The betrothal ring was composed of two rings that had an oval plate with the engraved names of the betrothed couple. Now, these rings were originally made out of inexpensive iron before gold became a popular metal. Posy rings had their peak in popularity in England during the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries as promise rings. They were given as tokens of love, affection, and the prospect of marriage. Now, these rings were known for the charming short love poems that were inscribed inside or on the outside of the ring. And what made this ring popular was the fact that these promise rings were quite affordable. As an aside, it is interesting that the very term promise ring appears to be rather recent. In the Dictionary of Jewelry, the promise ring was only noted first in the 1970s. Promise rings symbolize exclusive monogamous relationships. When a couple has no intention of marriage or even an engagement, but want to affirm that strong commitment to each other, a promise ring is given. In today's society, one or both parties can wear a promise ring. A newer version of the promise ring is the pre-engagement ring. If a couple feels that there is another step in their relationship, a stronger commitment, but yet engagement is just still too far off, a pre-engagement ring is given to symbolize exclusive monogamous relationships. Now, also to hit the recent market is another promise ring by the name of purity rings. And this ring indicates the wearer's desire to abstain from intimate activities. Now, it is very common after the purity rings are given that a ceremony is followed with the signing of a document that further asserts the agreement between the ring wearers. That is both male and female teenagers. Usually a parent or parents of both parties suggest the ceremony. Now, purity rings are intended to be worn until the wedding day, when they are replaced with wedding rings. The history of the engagement ring. An engagement ring indicates that a person wearing it is engaged to be married. It is presented as a betrothal gift to a man to his prospective spouse while he proposes marriage or directly after she accepts the marriage proposal. Now, in Western cultures, engagement rings are traditionally worn by the woman, but in other cultures, men and women wear the engagement rings. The engagement ring can be reliably traced back to ancient Rome. It is said the engagement rings is placed on the finger nearest the little finger on the left hand. At one time, it was believed that this finger contained the vena humerus, a vein that led directly to the heart vein. In 2nd century BC, the Roman bride-to-be was given 2 rings, one gold that she wore in public, and then one that was iron that she wore at home for doing her household duties. The Middle Ages. The mid-17th century Visigothic code required that when the ceremony of a betrothal has been performed, and the ring shall be given to or accepted as a pledge, although nothing may be committed in writing, the promise shall under no circumstances be broken. Renaissance times. The first well-documented use of a diamond ring to signify engagement was by the Archduke Maximilian of Austria in imperial court in Vienna in 1477 upon his betrothal to Mary of Burgundy. This then influenced those of higher social class and of significant wealth to start to give diamond engagement rings to their loved ones. So good old Max, he's the one that started this diamond ring engagement tradition. In early colonial New England, from the 1500s to the 1600s, where Puritans shunned ornaments and jewels, a thimble was substituted for an engagement ring. Some of the women would remove the top of the thimble and then wear that as an engagement ring. Now, during the Age of Enlightenment, from the 1600s to the 1700s, both the posy ring and gimel ring, which we'll talk about in a moment, were quite popular as engagement rings. Victorian era, diamonds. By 1872, the output of the diamond mines exceeded 1 million carats per year. As production increased, those of lesser means could now join in on the movement of giving their loved ones a diamond engagement ring. The 20th century. In the United States, the popularity of a diamond engagement ring really declined after World War I, and even more so with the onset of the Great Depression as the price of diamonds collapsed. In 1938, the diamond cartel, De Beers, began a marketing campaign that would have a major impact on engagement rings. One of the first elements of this campaign was to educate the public on the 4 C's: cut, carats, color, and clarity. 4 very important facets when you're buying an engagement ring. In 1947, the slogan, "A diamond is forever," was introduced. Ultimately, the De Beers campaign sought to persuade the consumer that an engagement ring is indispensable and is the only acceptable stone for an engagement ring. Well, the campaign was very successful because in 1939, only 10% of the engagement rings had diamonds. But in the 1990 census, 80% of the engagement rings had diamonds. Now, the idea that a man should spend a significant fraction of his annual income for an engagement ring originated from the De Beers marketing campaign. In the 1930s, they suggested that a man should spend an equivalent of 1 month's income on an engagement ring. Now, later they changed that, and they suggested that a man should spend 2 months' income on an engagement ring. Now, in a census taken in 2007, the average cost of an engagement ring in the United States, as reported by the industry, was $2,100. Now, there was a reason for the increased popularity of expensive engagement rings: its relationship to human sexuality and the woman's marriage prospects in the early days. Up until the Great Depression, a man who broke off a marriage engagement could be sued for breach of promise. Monetary damages included actual expenses incurred in preparing for the marriage, plus damages for emotional distress and loss of other marriage prospects. Now, beginning in 1935, those laws were repealed or limited. However, the social and financial cost of a broken engagement was no less. Marriage was the only financially sound option for a woman. And if she was no longer pure, her prospects for a suitable future marriage were greatly decreased. The diamond engagement ring thus became a source of financial security for the woman. Now, who exactly owns an engagement ring? Check out this complicated set of rules of who actually owns an engagement ring if there happens to be a breakup. Tradition commonly holds that if a man breaks off the engagement, he is not obligated in any way to have that ring returned to him, as the ring's role is a form of compensation for the woman's damaged reputation. Legally, this condition can be subject to modification or a strict fault rule. Under the former, the fiancé can demand the return of the ring unless he breaks the engagement. Under the latter, he is entitled to the return unless his actions caused the breakup of a relationship. However, a no-fault rule is set in some jurisdictions under which the fiancé is always entitled to the return of the ring. The ring only becomes property of the woman upon marriage. Now, an unconditional gift approach is another possibility wherein the ring is always treated as a gift to be kept by the fiancé, whether or not the relationship progresses to marriage. Now, in some recent court rulings, have determined that the date in which the ring was offered can determine the condition of the gift, such as Valentine's Day and Christmas Day are nationally recognized as gift-giving holidays. So if a ring is offered as a Christmas present, that ring will likely remain the personal property of the recipient in an event of a breakup. But in most states of the United States, engagement rings are considered conditional gifts under the legal rules of personal property. There is an exception to this general rule that gifts cannot be revoked once properly given. But the so-called modern trend holds that because an engagement ring is an inherently conditional gift, once the engagement has been broken, the ring should be returned to the donor. Thus, the question of who broke the engagement and why or who is at fault is completely irrelevant. Give candy. It's less complicated. Okay, do you know just where to wear an engagement ring? Well, in North America and the United Kingdom, engagement rings are customarily worn on the left hand finger ring. But in Germany, the ring is worn on the left hand while engaged and moved to the right hand upon marriage. And in Poland, the engagement ring and the wedding ring are worn on the right hand. Who wears the engagement ring, you ask? Well, in some countries, it is common for both men and women to wear engagement rings. In many Lutheran factions, the man wears the engagement ring, often in the form of a plain metal band. The engagement ring eventually serves as the wedding band for the man. In Brazil, the groom and bride-to-be usually wear a plain wedding band on the right hand during the course of their engagement, and then the band is moved over to the left hand upon marriage. In Argentina, the groom and bride-to-be wear a plain silver band on the left hand while engaged, and then it is replaced with the rings of their choice upon marriage. Now, traditionally, women in the British Isles can propose marriage to a man during a leap year. Women's proposals have become more common in recent years that many jewelry companies have started manufacturing men's engagement rings, which are usually a band with a diamond centerpiece. Wonder where they got that idea. Now, wedding ring history. Historians believe that Egypt started the tradition, most like our modern wearing of a wedding band, as archaeological discoveries has led them to this conclusion. Imagery on artifacts, such as papyrus scrolls, reveal ancient cultures exchanged rings braided by hemp or reeds. And through translated hieroglyphics, experts learned that the society viewed the circle as a symbol of endless love between a couple. Now, in ancient Rome, there were 3 recognized types of marriages, categorized by social class. One was an informal union reserved for the lowest class, often compared to today's common law marriage. Now, the second type of marriage involved purchasing one's bride. Historians believe that this is more symbolic than true, but yet still, many brides their fathers were paid for their hands in marriage. Now, the third marriage was reserved for the elite class and was the only legal form of marriage. The union was officiated with the groom presenting a ring to his bride, and most rings were made of iron, which then led to the popularity of metal wedding rings. But unlike Egyptian symbols of love, Romans viewed these bands as symbols of possession. The wife belonged to the husband. Now, there have been some interesting wedding rings down through the ages. Puzzle rings. Centuries ago in the Middle East, a man would give his wife a puzzle ring. This piece of jewelry was several rings, actually, that when worn together formed a cohesive band. Faithfulness was the idea behind this design. If a woman took off her ring, say to have a tryst, the ring would come undone and she couldn't put it back together again. Therefore, the husband knew that she had been unfaithful. Gimel rings. The gimel ring was quite popular in Europe during the 15 and 1600s. Its design was meant to signify marriage and unity, and is composed of two interlocking bands with a hand shape at each end, which were clasping when the ring was together. Now, after the couples became engaged, a bride and groom would wear one of the rings, and then at their wedding, the couple would connect their bands and to form one ring, which the bride would wear. Posy rings, here we are again. Engagement rings with the inscriptions of love were used as well as wedding rings, engagement rings, and promise rings. They were just all over the place, weren't they? And then again, the thimbles. In colonial America, a groom would give his bride a thimble as jewelry was frivolous, but a thimble was acceptable because it was a practical item. There again, the women would remove the top and use that as a wedding ring. As a piece of trivia, I wanted to add this information. The Virginia Street Bridge legend. Nevada is one of the first states to relax its divorce laws. And as a result, people began coming to Reno starting in the early 1900s to get a quickie divorce with basically no questions asked. During the 1930s, over 30,000 divorces were granted in the Washoe County Courthouse. Getting a Reno divorce was called getting renovated. The Washoe County Courthouse in downtown Reno is about a block south of the Virginia Street Bridge, which was built in 1905 over the Truckee River. There is a story that divorcees, after obtaining their final dissolution of marriage decree, would kiss a column on the courthouse portico, then walk to the Virginia Street Bridge and toss their wedding rings into the waters of the Truckee River. Now, evidence of this comes from divers having found many rings over the ensuing years. But you know, pawn shops are kind of just right around the corner, too. Memorial rings. Specialty rings just don't stop with love, commitment, and marriage. Rings can be given as a symbol of remembrance. Memorial rings were once very popular among people who wish to be remembered after their deaths by their friends and family. Shakespeare, for instance, bequeathed rings to a number of friends so he would not be forgotten. Now, I'd like to leave off with a quote from Elizabeth Taylor. My mother said I did not open my eyes for the first 8 days I was born. But when I did, the first thing I saw was an engagement ring, and I was hooked forever. If you would like to have an intuitive stone reading with me and my rings, please look to my website, which is www.sandypsychicstones.com for the information on how to have a reading. And thank you very much for watching Psychic Creations, and we'll see you next show. Hello everybody, I'm Sandie La Nae. Thank you for watching Psychic Creations. We have a very interesting show for you today. In fact, the show's even got a theme. It is called Music is the Heart of the Soul. Isn't that cool? Now, many of you know that I am a psychic and I use stones as my tool to give intuitive readings. But did you know that every stone has got a musical note? It's really cool, and there's also a color that's association with the stone for each do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ha note. It's really cool. For an example, do is red and the ruby is used for its association. Re is orange and a fire opal is used for its association. Mi is yellow, and a citrine can be used for the relation. Fa is green, and jade can be used for the connection. Now, so is blue, and lapis can be used for the association. La is indigo, and suzulite can be used for the relation. T is lavender, and an amethyst can be used for the connection. Now we're back up to the top scale note, which is do, and that is white and clear, and a rock crystal can be used for the association. Isn't that cool? I just love that. I have my cheat sheets here with me too because I'm horrible at trying to memorize anything. Now also, this is really cool. Do you know that stones have their own musical note in association with a stone and astrology signs? Check this out. This is really cool. Okay, the Virgo is accompanied by the peridot and the C note. Libra is accompanied by the emerald and the D note. Scorpio is accompanied by the aquamarine and the E note. Now, Sagittarian is accompanied by the sapphire and the F note. Capricorn is accompanied by tanzanite and the G note. Aquarius is accompanied by the suzulite and the A note. Now, Pisces is accompanied by the spinel and B note. Now, Aries is accompanied by the garnet and the D flat note, where Taurus is accompanied by the carnelian and the E flat note. Now, Gemini is accompanied by the crocoite and the F sharp note. Cancer is accompanied by the citrine and the A flat note. And last but not least is Leo, and that's accompanied by the chrysoberyl and the B flat note. Isn't that cool? Now, if you are musically inclined, give this a try. Play a chord of all of your family members, you know, the astrology signs, of your family members and or friends. You are going to be amazed at either the harmony or the discord that playing these notes together all makes. It's incredible. It's really a lot of fun. So, there is a saying, music is what feelings sound like. Now, after a short break here, I'm going to be introducing you to an entertainer where this saying is so true. Hi, and welcome back to Psychic Creations. Music. What better way to express yourself, to share your emotions and relay thoughts? I have a guest today where she happens to communicate all three of these in her fabulous music. Please welcome musical entertainer and star Lacy J. Dalton. Yay!
Hi, you guys. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Lacy. It is an honor to have you on this show.
I am honored to be here, and I'm honored to be playing to the audience of Sandie.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because you know you got to be conscious people out there to be watching the show. That's all there is to it.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say. Thank you. Well, I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to ask you a few questions about you and your music so the viewers can get a fuller view of just who Lacy J. Dalton is. Is that okay with you?
Are you sure they want to know this?
Well,
Do you think they'll still love me after I
think they will love you even more. All right, let's start with this. I'd like to talk to you about your music first, then we're going to delve in a little bit deeper, okay? Okay, now, was music an important part of your life growing up, or did you discover it later?
Actually, Sandie, my mom and dad and my sister all play music. My dad played every string instrument. Oh. And they were all, they played music all the time in the house. But I was the unmusical one. I would sit, we had a big table in the kitchen, and they would sit around playing music, and I would sit under the kitchen, you know, underneath the table where the legs were, and I would just sit there, and I would listen under the table. And I remember it was hard for me sometimes because my dad used to sing a song called Old Blue, which was later a song that Elvis Presley recorded. Actually, not Old Blue, Old Shep.
Old Shep, oh yes, I know
Old
that song.
Shep. When I was a kid and Old Shep was a pup. Well, I don't know if any of your listeners have ever heard that song. To this day, I cannot sing that song without just weeping. Sandie, I would sit under the table, under this big oak table, and put my fingers in my ears like this and close my eyes because I couldn't bear to hear the end of that song, where, of course, the dog goes to heaven, Summerland. And it wasn't until I was about, well, I had an experience at 7 years old. I went to see Cinderella, I think it was, you know, the Disney cartoon. And when I came home, I decided to go upstairs and have a bath. So I was sitting in the bathtub, and I was about 7, maybe 8 years old. And I remember going, I know you, I walked with you once upon a dream. And I went, oh, I can do that. So then nothing more until I was about 17 years old in high school. And I was the only kid that had a guitar at home, and there was a part in a high school play for somebody playing the guitar. So I borrowed my dad's guitar for this play, and of course I was hideous. He showed me a few chords, but I was hideous. And that's how it started, really, right then during that play, learning how to play a few chords and realizing, oh, this isn't so hard, I can do this. And then the pleasure that came from it. And then, of course, I wasn't a good enough guitar player to learn anybody else's songs, so I had to write my own. So I started writing songs right then.
Oh, awesome!
Yep.
Well, that's
laziness. I mean, it's been my greatest. It's been my greatest talent.
Isn't that fun? I love that. Well, let me see. Well, I think you kind of answered my next question of when did you become interested in singing and learning to play an instrument. So I think that's awesome. And here you are.
It kind of happened just by accident, you know. But in a way, after a while when you've been playing, I went to college to be an art major. I wanted to illustrate. I wanted to be a wildlife illustrator.
Oh.
And it's really strange. The minute I started playing the guitar and writing songs, that same energy that I would have taken to draw, I haven't drawn since then.
Oh.
It all goes, the same energy goes into writing songs. And when I realized that I was actually better at writing songs than I was at drawing, then I mean, and it was almost like a calling. It was just a gentle calling, that still small voice inside saying, go this way, go this way.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Well, they let you know what your purpose is.
Yep.
Oh, how wonderful.
If we're lucky, they do. I
Yes,
know
that's
so
true.
many people, don't you know, so many people who are still looking for that thing. And I think that the best way to find that, this is just sharing with you, but is to whatever brings you the most joy.
Exactly.
Fix your heart there and go for it. You know,
Well,
it
I
may
think
not
that's
be your
good
job,
advice.
may not be your job, but if it could be your job, go for it.
That's wonderful advice. Advice from a very wise and sage person. Well, have you regularly sang other types of music, musical genres like rock or gospel or rap?
You know, you laugh, but I'm telling you, I came out here, I ran off from Pennsylvania where I was born. I went down to work at the Bloomsburg Fair, which is this huge fair. It's a very, very big fair, almost like the Minneapolis State Fair, but it's a county fair in Pennsylvania. They have horse races there. And we worked for Big Joe Ryan underneath the grandstand selling jewelry. And I worked across the way from this hippie guy selling psychedelic posters.
Okay.
And we saw each other across the aisle, and, well, we fell in love.
Cool.
Turns out he was a psychedelic rock and roll guitar player.
Okay.
And he talked me into running off with him to go to California to go to a commune, a hippie commune, Flower Children. And we were going to be in a psychedelic rock and roll band, and in fact we were. And in fact we did that for a number of years. Yeah. We had this horrible name. We were called Office.
Oh.
This was after, like, I don't know if anybody out there's ever been in a band, but you get together in your band and then you try to find a name.
Okay.
And it just goes back and forth until we finally just threw up our hands and went, oh, let's just say we're the Office.
Oh, isn't that fun? Love that.
So we became the Office, but it was psychedelic rock and roll. And then, of course, from there, I was very interested in many, many kinds of music, blues and folk, predominantly rock and roll.
Okay.
These genres. I wasn't then. Rap was not so. But you know, I really actually some of that I actually like. If the poetry's good, if they're
Right.
not cursing every 5.
Right.
Not that I have anything against cursing, as you well know, but. But I mean, it gets a little old,
Sure,
you know,
right.
and the violence in that music. Of course, there's a lot of anger with in the inner cities. I used to have a friend who said, you know, some of these people's feet never touch the earth their whole lives. It's always concrete or asphalt.
Oh, okay,
Their
sure.
feet never touch the earth.
Uh-huh.
And
I'll be
they're
darned. Okay.
completely separated from our mother.
Well, that's okay.
So
I
anger.
understand that,
Anger
sure.
happes. Poverty, anger, you know, that.
Well, what is the genre that you sing now for your wonderful music, which we have her CD right here? What is the genre that you sing now?
Well, for many years, you know, I was known as a country singer, and I still am. But this music is the music that I've always written, I've always done, and now they call it Americana.
Oh, okay.
And it's sort of a blend of folk and bluegrass and blues and rock and roll. It's a lot of different things tied together, and what I have found is when I play it for my country audiences, they love it and they embrace it.
They do.
So, because it's not so far from country. It's not so far from folk music.
Right.
It's not so far from bluegrass. It's just has influences, and I think that's what music does. Music brings people together, and genres come together. Right now, I think you could hardly tell modern country music from 50s rock and roll, or 60s rock and roll, or even 70s rock and roll.
Okay.
It's a very different form than it was in the 40s and 50s.
Well, I think that's just very interesting. That is so cool. Well, how long did it take for your career to take off?
Oh, Sandy, I was the old lady of country music. They were horrified. I was a 36-year-old waitress, and I remember it was People magazine or Time magazine. It was some big magazine says, "What have we come to when the great white hope of country music is a 36-year-old waitress?"
Oh.
And I thought, well,
Oh my gosh.
excuse me.
Yeah. Oh.
But I was 36 years old when I got my first record deal with CBS Records in 1979.
Well, good for you.
So I was, they figured they liked you to get you when you're, and it's true now too. It is a very young business. A lot of young people. I was very happy to see Loretta Lynn with the president the other day, getting an award. That was pretty cool. And a lot of country music is a wonderful form. Blues is the same way. You can really get old in these forms of music. You didn't used to be able to get old in rock and roll, but now you can.
Yeah.
Look at the Stones.
Oh gosh, yes.
Still kicking butt.
They
and
are.
Willie Nelson, holy
Oh
cow.
yeah.
Willie still does high kicks on stage.
Does he really?
Oh, I just
Goodness,
love him. He is. I think Willie is probably one of my favorite role models in the entertainment business. He cares about the earth. He runs his buses on biodiesel. He stood up before Congress for the sake of our wild horses to try to get people to open their eyes and save. Do you know 80% of us want to preserve and protect our wild horses, and our government simply isn't listening to us. And I think that's a problem all the time with our government. When 80% of us want to do anything. I mean, 80% of us don't like to do anything else except maybe breathe
Sure.
altogether. So Willie has always been at the forefront, and I appreciate artists who do that and who are political. I hear all these people say, "Oh, celebrities should never be political." You know what? Musicians have always been political. Always. Always. And people who do what you do have always been political. Great leaders have always consulted sensitives to get direction in their lives. And also, in the old days, the minstrels that went from one castle to the other were the ones who carried the news about politics.
Right, yeah.
So don't tell me that we shouldn't be political, because that's what we are. I don't care what you think.
You're wonderful.
Sorry.
You are just wonderful. Well, what is the name of your recording company or label that you record under?
This confuses everybody. My own little record company now that I have, because I'm independent, which is why most of y'all think I'm dead. My record company is called Song Dog, and that is the Indian name for coyote. Song Dog.
Oh, yes.
So
okay.
that's this CD was the first one that I ever did for Song Dog Records, and we did this one in 2004 and revised it in about 2006, and it just sells and sells and sells, and I am so grateful for this record. And
greatest CD you ever want to listen to.
I'm grateful to it. I'll tell you, it puts groceries on the table for me. Thank God. As an independent artist, you have to understand.
Well,
time and again, you'll be living that Lacy J. Dalton indoor camping experience.
You are just wonderful.
Well,
right.
I just love you.
Well, thank you. I love you too, Lacy. You are just
Did
so
you just
much
about
fun.
call me Jill?
I was just about ready to call you Jill.
Do you
Yes.
know what? And you don't even know that was my birth name. My
Yes,
mother,
I do. You told me.
Oh, did I tell
That's
you?
why I was just about ready to slip.
It's not really a slip because I am now Lacy Jill Dalton.
Okay.
They asked me what the J stands for. That was the
okay.
name my mother gave me, and my mother called me Lacy and Jill interchangeably. So I guess it's okay.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Well, I just love you too. You are, this is one obviously wonderful person. All right, let's see. Now you sing for different benefits and events. Can you tell us about a particularly wonderful, awesome event that you perform for?
Well, of course, I'm going to tell you. But my first love, of course, is always wild horses. And we did a wonderful benefit up at Piper's Opera House 2 years ago for, at that time, Bonnie Matten was the president of the Wild Horse Preservation League, and they were kind of, they, along with many of the other wild horse groups, and I got together and we did a show up at Piper's Opera with David John and the Comstock Cowboys and Richard Aloyan, our great cowboy poet here, and a lot of other wonderful poets. Harold Roy Miller, Willis Lamb was there. And we just, I mean, it was a cause that I really care about, and it's a cause that I will always be there to pull for, because I love our wild horses. I think they're sacred, and
they are.
And I think we need to preserve and protect them. And that a great part of my life is spent doing that. Also, I do remember some very wonderful shows that we've done for our veterans. And I really like doing the shows for the veterans. I think some, especially the Vietnam veterans, were never really thanked for their service. And that has caused terrible scars in some of these men. Not all of them.
Sure.
But in many of them. Some of them were spit upon when they came back to the... Yeah, and in fact, Bob, who was my boyfriend, had that happen to him. And I know a couple of other people. I've had a couple of Vietnam veteran boyfriends. And that was a terrible experience. And I just want to say right now, thank all of you, soldiers, men and women, for your service. And especially want to thank the Vietnam veterans, and of course Second World War in Korea, the forgotten war. All of you, thank you so much for your service, and God bless each and every one of you.
Couldn't have said it better. You okay?
Yep.
Okay. Now, do you write most of your songs and the lyrics too?
Sandie, I do write most. I do write most of them, the lyrics and the music. But I also, I brought you a CD today.
Yes, you did.
Of a song that I heard. I heard a woman singing this song. Emily Sandie is the writer with a few other people around her. She's a wonderful British artist. She has a huge hit on this song called "Next to Me." It is a big hit on the internet, and it was a big pop hit in England. And when I heard the lyric, I thought, I have to sing this song.
Oh.
It's such a rare lyric.
Okay.
You won't find him drinking at the table, rolling dice or staying out till 3. You won't ever find him be unfaithful. You will find him next to me. And that's how that lyric
Got the
goes.
shivers.
You know, the next line is, you won't find him trying to chase the devil for money, fame, or power out of greed. You won't ever find him where the rest go. You will find him. You will find him next to me.
Oh.
And I thought that was such a rare lyric, a male affirming, to actually affirm. A lot of the guys in my band, for instance, are very faithful to their wives. They get hit on a lot on the road, and I see them, and I see them not go for that easy thing. I see them take a different stance and respect their marriages. And I watch this all around me, and I appreciate it, and I think it's very undersung about. So Emily Sandie, thank you for your wonderful song, and it is out now. You can get it on CD Baby. And I brought Sandie a copy of it today.
I can't wait to listen to it.
I hope you'll like it.
Thank you so much for that.
Well, you know, I was just saying, I don't always write all my own material. If I find a song, in fact, I just started doing a song by our friend Richard Aloyan, who is one of Nevada's greatest poets and songwriters, especially here in northern Nevada. He sounds like Marty Robbins. If you haven't heard Richard Aloyan, do go hear him, because he's wonderful. But I've started doing a song that he wrote about the wild horses called The Escape. It's about a helicopter chase of a stallion, and in the end of the song, the horse gets away.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like an awesome song. And so you're putting the music to his poetry lyric?
No, he wrote the music. He wrote the poetry, and he's a wonderful poet.
Okay.
And it is on our Wild Horse Crossing CD, which is also available at CD Baby. And that is a project where a lot of us got together. We gave 100% of our performances, 100% of the publishing of our songs, 100% of that CD goes right to the wild horses to support them. Wild Horse Crossing, it's called. And so when you get that, we only keep enough money, which is about $1.25 to make each one.
Sure.
To keep doing that. And
Well,
that's
that's
been a project of many, many years,
Yeah.
and it included David John and the Comstock Cowboys,
Oh.
and Richard Loyan and Bean Souza. I mean, there were so many wonderful people on that CD. It's really, Stephen Swinford and Bean Souza produced it, and they did all of that work. We had a donation for the studio time, but other than that, everything was donated by these artists, and they're
Really?
just,
Oh.
I mean, it's just
This
wonderful.
is wonderful. And where can you get this? Well, all your CDs. You may as well go ahead and promote your contact sites.
Amazon and CD Baby, and I think that the Wild Horse Crossing CD is only available on CD Baby.
Okay.
But most of everything else is available on both Amazon.com and CD Baby.
Oh well, everybody, you have to go get these albums. You're going to love them.
Well, I hope they enjoy them. I sure enjoyed making them. This one especially, because a lot of the records that I've made in the past, if I'm listening, somebody puts them on when I'm in their home, I listen and I just kind of cringe and think, gee, I wish I'd done that differently, or gee, I just really don't. This one's a little different. Mm-hmm. This one I made exactly the way I wanted to make it in my home studio with my band.
Oh, nice.
And
okay.
so, even though it was made in 2004 and things have changed, so it has, it certainly sounds like it was made then, but it's still pleasing to me. And I still am, I think when you do something the way you really want to do it, and it's 100% the way you want to do it, I think no matter then what happens, you're always going to be pleased at least you did it your way.
Sure.
This,
of course.
This CD, the Last Wild Place Anthology CD, I did it my way.
And it really comes through. The spiritualism in this CD really comes through. Your voice, the music, the lyrics. This is an incredible, incredible CD. It's a must-have for your collection. That's
Thank
for
you,
sure.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank
very much hear, well, in your voice, like I was saying, your voice, the inflections, the lyrics, very, very spiritual. Where do you get your inspirations before and while you're writing your wonderful songs?
I am sure that it's the same thing that you are experiencing when you give people readings with your stones and the different ways that you do your readings. I don't feel that I'm writing the songs. I feel that inspiration comes from Spirit. And it comes through, and you just write it down, and you write it down to the best of your ability. And sometimes, I have a song on here called Little Boy Blue, which I wrote about my son, or for my son. It came to me in a dream.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it came to me in a dream, and in the dream, a guy was saying to me, if you'd practice more, it wouldn't be so hard to give these things to you.
How fun.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they let you know, don't they?
It was just like, okay. So I woke up. I happened to have a guitar by the bed, which I don't usually. I just happened to have it there, and I started playing it. And my husband at the time said, is it somebody else's song? Have you heard this song before? Hey, little boy, I'm so proud of you. He said, no, but you better write it down. Oh. So I got up and wrote it down, and literally in 15 minutes, I wrote this song.
You're kidding.
No, it just came. It just came through. There are songs that do that. They will just simply come through. There are other songs that I get an idea for. There's a song also on this CD called "Standing Knee Deep in the River and Dying of Thirst."
Yes.
Took me 30 years to write it.
Oh,
I kept working on it and working on it and changing it and fixing it. And then my co-producer on this CD, Tom Bocci, helped me edit it because it was really, really long.
Oh, okay.
And we wanted to have it for this project. And I said, I can't edit it. It's like cutting off my baby's arm. I've been working on this thing for so long. And he helped me edit it, and I think he did a wonderful job of guiding me as to what I could leave out and what I could leave in on that particular song. And it is a song with a spiritual message. When it began to come to me years ago, I thought about a kid in a hotel room, a rock and roll kid, sitting alone with a guitar, probably drunk, probably on drugs, thinking about not continuing his life. Looking out this room, this kind of not very nice room in an old hotel in San Francisco, and I thought, I'm going to write a song for people who get to that place where they have to ask themselves, can I go on? Should I go on or should I not? And I question in the song, I say, you got to ask yourself, am I standing knee deep in the river and dying of thirst?
It's a very moving song. All of your songs on this CD happen to be very moving. They will bring tears to your eyes. They will bring shivers to your skin. Very, very spiritual music. Okay, can you please give us your contact information again on where to get your CDs or how to get a hold of you? Perhaps to perform or just to say hi?
Oh, yes. Call me. I'll come to your house and do a performance. I'm independent now. We do everything.
Oh, you're fun.
If you would like to reach us, you can reach me through bob@lacyjdalton.com. And we do have a website, www.lacyjdalton.com.
Awesome. Everybody's got to get on your website and order her CDs. Oh, you are going to love them. Thank you so much for being part of Psychic Creations today. What an awesome guest you've been, and what an awesome friend you are.
Right back at you,
Oh,
Sandy.
thank you so much.
And I want to thank everybody. I'm so happy for you that you have your show now.
Oh,
and I
thanks.
want to encourage you to get everybody you know to watch this, because this is a cool show.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And thank you for mentioning that, because my shows can be seen on YouTube, which is, the channel name is called Psychic Creations. Thank you so much for joining our show today, and we'll see you next show.